Welcome to the Resolution Room, a space for reflection and meaningful dialogue. I'm Dr. Nashay Lowe. My work sits at the intersection of leadership, communication, and conflict transformation, helping people see challenge as a teacher, not a threat. Each episode invites you to look closer, think deeper, and lead with greater intention. Because resolution isn't the absence of difficulty, it's learning to move through it on purpose. Let's get into it. In a world obsessed with performance metrics and quick wins, it's easy to forget that behind every strategy, every KPI, and every result, there are people. In this episode of the Resolution Room, I'm joined by Hanna Bauer, founder of HEARTnomics Enterprises, to explore what happens when leaders stop managing outcomes and start leading from their values. We unpack how emotional drivers shape behavior, why empathy is the missing ingredient in most transformation strategies, and how to turn even the toughest conflicts into meaningful breakthroughs. From the psychology of change to practical frameworks like the Maxwell Leadership Model, DISC, and Lean Six Sigma, Hanna reveals how sustainable growth begins when the heart of a leader and the health of an organization finally align. This conversation is for anyone ready to trade burnout for balance and performance for purpose. All right, Hanna, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hanna Bauer, and I am here as a guest with Dr. Nashay Lowe. Very excited to be here. My background is in operational excellence with execution to make sure that our internal systems align, and of course, leading with love, taking care of our people, leading with emotional intelligence. My background comes in as a black belt in Lean Six Sigma, leading many projects for excellence. I'm a Baldrige examiner for the communities, and also for the emotional side, a DISC master trainer and consultant. So that's my background. An entrepreneur, learned a lot of things. I have a lot to talk about because I made a lot of mistakes. From that is where I've been able to really not only help bring out my enterprises in the past, nonprofits, board of directors. I've been able to serve at different levels, but also be able to bring that over to the community and to the business owners that are hustling out there every day looking to make a difference.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're all here for the mistakes, so we're definitely going to get into those. And I love what you said about leading with love. Tell me a little bit about that as your approach.
Oh yeah, well, because love, people think it's like a fluffy thing, or it's like this feeling or something. And honestly, I mean, like again, we all go back, right? Love is what the greatest, if not the greatest, or I believe it's the greatest powerful force that we have. And it's not just that the love, the feeling, but there is metrics, the structure of love. We talk about belonging in a workplace. You gotta love, you love what you do. You're excited about what you're doing. You love the people that you work with. That means that you're looking out for one another. That means you have the processes in the system. So there's clarity. If you love somebody, you want things to be clear. When you love yourself, you're authentic. When you love others, you lead with empathy. So this higher level skills that we're asking our leaders to give out, you go back to all of them. The root is love. And for one of my main things with leaders is not only, yes, serving in love, but we got to start with loving ourselves and loving what we do and loving our products, loving the core of an organization. Why are we here? So the love is a very powerful, it's not a fluff, it's sacrificial, it costs. It costs to love your people. It costs to treat them right and to pay them well when the income's not coming in, when things are unprecedented, when there's uncertainty, where I don't know where it's going to go, and I'm still going to make sure my people are well, and there's still a place for them to grow in. It's sacrificial, loving people.
And that feeds so well into the name of your organization, HEARTnomics. So tell me about how you came to name that and just what it's about.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things with HEARTnomics. So if you can see, the HEARTnomics is actually a combination of two words, heart and nomics. The heart being the love and nomics being the economics, the systems, the ecosystem that goes along with taking care of that heart. If you realize the heart for us internally is the one that gives life, right? It's a system. There's inflow and there's an outflow. And just like there's an inflow, we have an inflow in organizations, the alignment in the organizations. And there's the outflow with the execution that we do to the outside. So there's the internal customer service experience. There is the external customer service experience. So that's where the HEARTnomics concept comes in. Love with our human side, keeping the human first, great teams, great people, but excellence being the processes and systems in place. So let me tell you, they will not work together unless you have great leadership. Leadership is what makes both of them work together. Great teams, great processes. That's why I focus on leadership in creating, growing leaders, helping that aspect.
That's amazing. And so you again work at the intersection of values, leadership, and transformation. So
Yes.
before we get deeper into the frameworks and tools, can you think of a recent moment, whether that's big or small, where you saw values and action change the outcome for a team or a leader?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, mention there have been times it's a rough economy. It's been rough for a lot of sectors. And the decision of integrating tools, right? Like we were talking about integrating AI, integrating things that are business wise, yet could feel not integrated correctly. The people, the team members that are there left behind or left to the side. So I particularly saw a leader when making this decision of what tools to invest, what tools to bring in on board, not only the introduction of the tool, but also the getting their team ready. Some are going to go with the team. Some may choose not to. I mean, we've seen that, right? It's like, hey, you know what? I would like to do something else. But doesn't matter the decision of the team members, is making sure that they're trained, that they have the opportunity for growth, that they see the options, even if the option is to pivot in a different way, to serve in a different way. And honestly, that's innovation. When a leader does this well, when a leader loves their people and a leader loves the organization by also adopting things that are going to bring them to the forefront, it opens up the ability to innovate. And that's really where the call is, where yes, we can embrace this promises of future, this things that we have to evolve with time, but also loving our people through it all. And you'll be surprised the people, they don't have to be like necessarily techie, but they're the ones that will come up with the greatest of innovations of how to really get the organization going and incorporating people. So, seeing a leader for me lately, this last couple of weeks, hearing their heart, it really impacted me again and reminded me that yes, leaders are very much aware. And even in a tech changing world, really, when you put people first, even all the changes in tech and the hard decisions that are going to have to be made, they can be not only welcome, but it's an opportunity for everyone to grow together.
I really admire the way you integrate the personal dynamics and growth into the professional development world. So you clearly seen how connecting the emotional drivers can fuel both personal and organizational transformation. So why do you think so many leaders underestimate or even avoid this part of leadership?
I think because we're discouraged many times. Like, we sometimes we think that service is an outside thing. Like we serve, you do this for others, but rarely are we encouraged to also look inside and align inside. We're asking our teammates to be highly engaged, yet we're not taking the time to see, well, how engaged am I? How do I show engagement in the work that I do so that I can indeed replicate this in other team members or even recognize it? Sometimes we think it's a disengaged team member. It's not a disengaged team member, is that they don't know, they not they don't know, they communicate differently than I do. And their communication may seem like disengagement when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of, again, because love is put to maybe not something that people measure, like is this thing, or people, we've been for years hearing, keep your personal things outside, right?
Right.
And to bring your skills. Well, you can't just ask me to bring my skills and my talent and forget the rest of me. So we're bringing our whole selves, right? We're talking about embracing our entire humanity. It makes us great. It doesn't make us weaker. And as leaders, that's been one of the things that I see is discouraged. Well, people say don't be emotional. Well, think about the sales cycle. Everybody tells you, what is sales? It's an exchange of emotions. That's what they teach. You go to the greatest salespeople, it's a sales of emotion. Oh, people don't want to hear what the product does. They want to hear the benefit, how they're going to feel when they have this product, they experience this product, they have this service. And yet we're constantly asking our leaders to keep their emotions out the door. Well, this creates a dichotomy of I'm asked to perform with one way, but leaving the best of me out there.
Mm.
And I think this is the part where, for me, having that alignment, we have disconnected leaders and disconnected team members because we're even disconnected in ourselves. So, one of my main things is like, hey, you cannot give what you don't have. If you're not aligned with you, with your own values, with what you love, with how you're showing up, with yourself seeing a way to grow, you won't be able to give that to the leaders. And when you do, because I know we do, I know we consistently, it's just motherhood, right? Like I've been a business owner mom. You constantly do. I mean, you can't expect for the kids to give you anything back, especially when they're babies. But you know what? That's what there's time to take care. We talk about self-care. Same way with leaders. You're constantly giving. And if you're not replenishing this, you're going to be burned out. And if you look at that, the stats say that 77% of professionals right now are burnt out. Over 85% of the leaders at this moment, executives, have reported that they do not feel they're ready for uncertainty. They're not. They don't feel like they're equipped. And what happens? Chaos. It's basically trauma. Every time there's a change, it's a trauma thing. Now, it doesn't mean it has to work against you, but if you don't have that resilience built in, and we talk about resilience in the business, we talk about resilience in organizations. Well, resilience is a muscle that's grown. It doesn't just happen because, like, hey, we got to be resilient. And in order to do that, we have to embrace emotions. We have to understand, how do I feel? How is my team feeling? There has to be these other, not only skill task completion points, there has to be that connection with them. Because when I'm asking them to be resilient, I'm not asking to get more work done. I'm asking them, how are we getting the work done? And what's the type of work that we're doing?
Hannah, wow. That was amazing. I mean, I've never really heard someone, these are a lot of things that I feel like I have thoughts on, but it's really hard to have the conversation about how emotions fit into the business world. How do we then, especially for people in positions of power within organizations who have been doing things a certain way for a long time, and societally, we've been doing things a certain way for a long time. How do we start that shift of normalizing this balance of the personal and professional in the workplace?
Well, I think one is, like with everything, it's awareness, acknowledging we're serving humans with our products and services.
Hmm.
So they're produced by humans. So even just embracing our humanity,
Right.
being a human in the workplace is good. The more I'm able to connect with my customer and whoever's going to get my services, the more I understand their humanity, the better I'm going to be able to serve them. In essence, then how am I supporting humanity in my workplace? How do I know when there's a problem? How do I know when my teammate is missing? I mean, we talk about mental health in the workplace. What are the markers, the symptoms that I may have a burnt out workforce, that I may have a burnt out leader? Look at what's happening. We see great leaders, CEOs falling sick, consistently falling sick. This drive, which we have, high capacity leaders to operate more, to do more. And trust me, I want to be like, my thing is, I want to help more people and help them more. We know that the reward of good work is more work. That's what the reward of a good job. Guess what? Oh, you get even more work.
Right.
You get a bigger thing. Guess what? A bigger also comes with higher responsibility, higher authority. Guess what? Greater liability, greater complexity, bringing complexity to you. So, what is the support that I'm giving my leaders, that I'm requiring, that I'm entrusting them with this more? Am I also more in my support as an organization? Am I also giving them the more in what they may need to have that work-life balance, which we talk about wellness. So we are really rewarding our top producers with more work, with more complexity, but are also rewarding them with more in the sense of authority, more in the sense of autonomy, more in the sense of not only a seat at the table, but a voice at the table, so that they represent. That they represent, well, how are their solutions integrated? Because we see a lot of that. A lot of what comes part is more, there may be, hey, I'm open for solutions, I'm open for ideas. And this is what I see a lot of the conflict comes in. But even after the ideas come in, the solutions come in, there's no integration. How do we integrate these ideas? How are these ideas taken and then become part of the organization DNA? With leaders that are having to carry out tasks all the time, but not seeing the integration of like, hey, understanding my team, understanding the different generations I have, understanding that every generation in my team is going to have a different, not only view of what's going on, but need because of the life stage they're in. My global teams are going to look different than my teams that I get to interact with on an everyday, that they are different needs, but how am I being trained and how are we integrating those different solutions and taking that as a whole, as part of our culture into place? So that has been one of the things, like how do we do that? Well, aware that our solutions, the way, if we're looking to be innovative as a company, as an organization, as a mission, as a nonprofit, we can't operate the same way in the same time implementing solutions, new solutions for a future we have yet to arrive to. It's going to require that internal change as well as what our product or our brand colors might be or what our logo might be. With that is the internal aspect as well.
And thinking about transforming some of the toughest conflicts into lasting breakthroughs, what's the first step a leader should take when the room feels tense and divided?
Oh, well, first is the time, right? And neutralizing. Again, emotions work for us, but not when they're working against us. So you have to, as a leader, emotions are good, but they also there's a time for emotions. So one of the main goals and really roles of a leader is that whole safety aspect. It's a psychological safety, is understanding that, yes, I acknowledge where that you may be having the feelings right now. And again, making a time and space for that to come in a later place, keeping the team focused, but it doesn't just happen at that one time. If you come to realize some of these problems, it didn't just that one day what happened. We saw it coming. Most of the people's like, oh yeah, I was just waiting for the day that this was going to happen. Most of the things are not surprised when there might be a conflict or there's that distension, and it's like that tension just keeps on growing. So as a leader, again, how am I keeping tabs on what's going on as far as the emotional aspect? How am I measuring that? Am I measuring that by the engagement as in how many questions I get? Am I measuring that by the one-on-ones? Am I measuring that? There has to be a way that I'm measuring that. And then the culture of those meetings. Because if the culture of the meetings sustain that type of any outburst or conflict, then a leader's going to have a very hard time without being the one like, well, you're not letting them talk. Leader's the one that is they're being put in the defensive when indeed they're trying to neutralize the room. So again, it is something that we prepare for in leadership before it happens. And of course, things may just happen, right? I mean, people have a bad day. There's a really bad news. There's a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about culture. We're talking about group habits. We're talking about group think. So it's not just one person thinking. It's talking about like the way that we all think. If you think about culture, it's the way we think, the way that we act, and the way that we interact. So when you're going into those meetings, when you're going into those places, those three things are going into place. They're going in the way that we already think as a group, the way that we interact with one another, and the way that we take action. So how do I, going into that place, going into that meeting, how have I been adding to that as a leader? How have I been fostering the culture that I want to see for when those times come? And that's when whatever the leader has to do as far as discipline or as far as like, hey, he's shutting it down, it's not going to be resisted, but it's going to be welcome.
And how do you then balance empathy with accountability so that understanding people's emotions doesn't mean avoiding hard decisions?
Oh yeah, you definitely can avoid hard decisions. That's why that's why the leadership is there. The one thing about leaders is you got to make decisions. That's part of leadership. You don't like making decisions. If you don't want to make decisions, then maybe leadership is not for you. I mean, like that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to make decisions. We look at leaders for making decisions. So empathy. What is empathy? Meaning that I'm looking at things from your side, from your end, not only from my end. So an empathetic leader, a leader that's leading with empathy, is constantly looking at, I understand that this is what's good, but how is that person? Is this good for all? That's the question. And if it's good for all, how do they know? How do they know that this is a good decision, even though they may not agree with the decision, that this indeed is good for all? And the one question even when making decisions, because not every decision is going to be welcome. Of course not. And people are not going to understand everything. And you can't the whole time be explaining all the things. There's times in leadership where you have to be a coaching leader. There's times when you have to be a facilitating leader. There's times where you have to be the representative leader, the head. There's times where you have to be the commanding leader. I mean, I've trained SWAT teams. When they're going in there to the mission, when they're getting it, the thing that they have been training for, there's no let's collaborate and think what we should do right now. There's a command, execute, command, execute, command, execute. They have to. Otherwise, somebody's going to die. A teammate can die. But guess what? When they're out of that mission, they don't continue in that. They don't continue command and conquer, command, conquer. No. They then go debrief, collaborate, add on to the values that brings them together as a team. So that same leader that may have been in a command do, don't no questions asked, becomes the coaching leader. How can we do this better? What is it that you want to do? The same leader. So you have to know in leadership, what is the leader that you are being called to do? And in making decisions, some decisions are going to be hard. They're going to be a one person. You're going to have to make decisions like that. Some decisions are going to require collaboration. Some decisions are going to require compromise. Some decisions are going to require things. So understanding what does this decision require of me and my team? And does my team also understand? How do I know they understand where we're at? That's where I can bring clarity.
Yeah. And I love bringing up that there's a time and place for different types of leadership. And so in your approaches, you work with tools like the John Maxwell leadership programs, the DISC assessment, and Lean Six Sigma. So how do you decide which approach or combination to use when a team is struggling?
Well, sure. If you think about it, when we talk about leadership, I mean, when I train people, it's like there's something like when you have like your tool shed, right? I mean, where like the things that where you might have your tractor, you may have your chainsaw. Those might be your agile methodologies. Those might be like your waterfall methodologies. Those might be like your big methodologies, right? But then there's something like a toolbox. You think about an electrician or somebody who comes to you like, something that's portable. There's a toolbox. This could be like your assessments. Those could be like, hey, your quick things as a leader, like, hey, maybe your one-on-ones or things that you go to like reevaluations, your 360 evaluations, right? But then you have your tool belt. Those tools that you have right there, like, especially when, like, hey, if I'm a repair person, I usually probably will have a pair of scissors, screwdriver, something to cut pliers with, right?
Okay.
I mean, I will have those because I use them often. The same way is with these different tools that I have, with DISC, with Maxwell leadership, with Baldrige, with those parts, because there's some specific tools, for example, that I have in my tool belt that more likely my communication with this understanding, being able to read, being able to taking that moment. Again, empathy is something in your tool belt, always something really quick. Your coaching ability, something really quick as a leader, right? So DISC helps me with that. I train leaders to help them like, hey, those things that you're going to use right now. If you're in customer service and you're leading a hospitality team, the tools you're going to have are going to be different than the ones that you might be reading on the bookkeeping or accounting end. They may need a different type of tools, so I need to make sure that the tools I have in my tool belt are applicable to that team. The emotional aspect, I have to have a tool for my emotional aspect. My leadership aspect, what's my leadership? What do I go to? For example, in Maxwell leadership, we say everyone deserves to be led well. So whenever there's a leader decision, is asking that question, did I lead them well? And what does well mean to me? So that is a tool. That is something in a tool belt. Am I leading well? Am I adding value? It's one of the things that we say all the time. We are people of value that add value to others, right? That we value people and add value to them. So first thing is I have to understand I'm somebody of value, but I cannot add value to others by devaluing myself. So I cannot be constantly like, hey, my time is not worth what their time is worth. No, I got to be worth of my time so I can also value you and value your time. And I'm going to then add value to your time by making sure that you're doing work that is work that is balanced, work that is significant to you, and work that's going to get you to where you want to get in life. So as a leader, those are things that we do, right? with Baldrige, for example, being able to look at the systems, I can love you, but if I don't have a process, a system, it's going to create a lot of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I see this all the time. Conflicting priorities. In the morning, one person comes in, says this is priority. By the afternoon, something else is priority. By the evening, like from someone that's not even in the business, said this is priority. So not having a right process or system creates conflicting priority, which then does not allow me to do the work, the meaningful work I want to do. So being able to, again, have those, and that's where my systems approach comes in. That's where my Six Sigma comes in. Well, what is the defect? Why did we have conflicting priorities? Was there something that was missed? Were there overlapping meetings? What mattered? Were we taking care of something that mattered to a person, or like outside of the business, or to a client? Like, how are we looking at that? So how are we loving our client through that process? Where was the clarity in that? So there's a process and systems that has to be in place. Whenever I see conflicts with, as far as getting work done, is the three questions I ask is, well, did they know how to do it? Where did they have the resources to do it? And the third one, were they willing to do it?
Mm.
And we have to know those three. We have to know, do they have the skills? Have I resourced them? Well, do they want to? And if they don't want to, we got to talk. I got to be talk, you know?
Wow. Well, I love the takeaway that basically every leader needs to have a shed, their kit, and their belt.
That's right.
That's awesome. Is there any one framework that you've seen consistently unlock progress, even in organizations that feel stuck?
The one framework, values.
Nice.
I mean, you gotta know the values, and not just. I mean, I'm not talking about your own values. We're talking about the values of the organization. So, if you're talking about framework, and this is one I consistently do see leaders, they do not know the mission of the organization, not know the vision, in much worse, the values tell us how we're going to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, they're making decisions without the very compass that tells us, is this a decision that I should even be making right now? Is this even something that we need to be looking at right now? So the framework is, you always got to keep the mission, what's mission critical to the work we're doing. It doesn't matter if you are the janitor, it doesn't matter if you're the person bagging the things in the back, it doesn't matter if you're the one that's leading from like the front, or the CEO or the board of directors chair directing all the money through it. It doesn't matter. We all have got to be. That is the one common shared goal we're there for. Is that mission, is that vision. And every decision as a leader, every hire that we bring in, every person that comes in some way, somehow is adding to that vision, is adding to that mission. If they're not, or if I'm not, or if I don't even know where I'm leading, then again, that's where you start seeing all this dysfunction.
Yeah, I agree. And helping people understand how their individual tasks connect to the bigger picture and the meaning. Because I think that one thing that happens too, you think of, like you said, whether it's a janitor or a CEO, there's a shared goal there, but the
Yes.
janitor may not feel like, well, how is me sweeping this hallway adding to the mission of this? But when you can make those connections for people and they understand how important every task is,
Yes.
I think that makes all the difference.
You have to. You have to. And when we talk about people like, well, I don't want to micromanage people. Well, good. Like, when people don't want to be micromanaged either, guess how you don't micromanage? You bring out the values, because when values are leading, when you're leading with values, you don't have to be looking over their head to get their work done, because of the values that we share. What are the values of the integrity? And because I know this is a job that needs to get done. It's not just a job that needs to get done. It's an important job that needs to get done from the very experience. Like, for example, having a place clean. I mean, think about it. Restaurants lose their licenses over not being clean. Any place, people will get reviews. They could be selling cars, but if the place is not clean, they won't go back to car dealership. It has nothing to do with the car,
Mhm.
but the way that the place looks. So everyone, absolutely everyone, when we have a mission-driven workforce, you have a very much a workforce that's not only doing their job, they're doing it well, but they're also innovating because they care about what's going to happen to them. It becomes not just, becomes their mission. It becomes like, hey, I'm here every day and it matters.
Yeah, I agree. It's such an interesting perspective shift that happens. I think when you do, again, understand how the alignment, it almost unleashes your creativity to, like how you just said, innovate. So like you come up, with creative solutions to issues, and you start thinking more proactively about how you can make more efficient systems and make things work better. So, yeah.
And it makes you happy and you want to. Like, you're not because somebody else like told you to, or because it's like, hey, no, why are you doing that? It just, hey, it's fun.
Exactly.
It becomes fun.
Yeah.
Like, we can start innovating, like, oh, I could do this. Like, oh, I don't have, okay, is it okay if I do it like that? Yeah, go ahead. Cool. You just invented something and it becomes fun.
Hmm. I wonder how often this comes across your work. I know it's something that I experience from time to time. How do you ensure that these tools lead to real cultural change rather than becoming another check the box exercise?
Well, you can't prevent the checkbox exercise. I mean, right? That goes back to the motive. But that culture is, when is culture tested? When you have uncertainty, when there's maybe a lack of income, talent that walks out the door. So it becomes not the check the box because suddenly you're feeling the pain of not having the culture that sustains it. So a lot of times it's not because, like, we can't prevent people from doing that. People are going to do what they're going to do with that, but I can't put the foundation in place and add to the foundation in place that when that time comes, I'm able to not only bring awareness, but I'm also able to bring solutions right then and there that is going to help sustain it. I mean, think about it. When a crisis comes, you become to your, even to your home, right? I mean, you have a tornado, you have a storm that comes in. I mean, that's not the time to start looking. Was that roof even old enough to sustain that? Was that the thing? Do what could I have done before to prevent it? No, the roof is gone. Like, the roof is gone. Like, did you check it? Does somebody, like, what was there anything you could have done? Maybe there was nothing. I mean, like, a lot of these changes happen, like policy changes. Like, there's nothing you can do. There's leadership that happens, nothing you can do. But what can you do is, how do I respond? Was it insured? Did it have those things in place? Right? Do I have a contact? Do I have somebody I can call right then? I mean, so we start seeing the testing even of the structure. Why do sometimes these claims don't go through? Because maybe there was a lack of maintenance. Maybe, like, hey, I know the storm was like that, but you didn't also do your part. So although that change came and it wasn't because of me, there's things I could have done to, even when that storm came, could have kept people safe.
Hmm.
So those are the things that when we're talking about, even with the culture, those times are going to come. I mean, if we're just looking at checking the box, so yeah, do I have a roof on the house? Yep. Next. You could just do that too. I mean, it did. Like, nobody will know until the storm comes. So a lot of the things come into place when either someone leaves, income is getting lost, or there's this growth. There's quick growth. And they have scale. They're getting a lot more, the broader appeal. There's all this stuff. So that in itself creates pressure. And then if you have not have a culture that sustains that, then it becomes very diluted. And then what do you have? Identity crisis. We don't know what we're doing anymore. You have the experience in one place not being the same experience here. You have the experience of one employee with a leader. It's not the same experience on this employee. And then you start having all kinds of things. So even in growth, when money's good and people are looking good, it becomes very diluted. And when pressure comes, it cracks.
Absolutely. And it seems that many times leaders sometimes leave workshops inspired but fail to follow through
Oh,
afterwards.
yeah.
So, what strategies help leaders move from insight to sustained action?
Again, it's we think it was from Zig Ziglar. We say, like, a motivation is like showers. We recommend doing it every day because, like, it doesn't last, right? So I mean, you gotta have a system. I mean, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. We hear that from James Clear, right? So a workshop, it has to serve for something. The end of the workshop is not the workshop itself. It's what the workshop is going to do.
Hmm.
So as a leader, because you don't want to waste time, people say people don't need another training. They need results. They want relief. They want to know, like, hey, I want to learn. I mean, if you better believe in that innately, people really do want to do good things. They see this innately. We gotta tap into that, right? I mean, you're gonna find what you're looking for, and you gotta dig in for gold. I mean, gold doesn't just come. So, as a leader, when you're providing that workshop, well, what is the follow up? It can't be the end of it all is for like those 2 hours. Hey, I'm at the front of the room. I do this. And like you said, check the box. What's the purpose of that? We have the takeaways. And when I put workshops together, there's already I have to give what the description is and what's the takeaway going to be. Well, guess what? That's what I think the takeaway is going to be. I have to be able to know at the end, did they indeed take away that? So that's a survey. There has to be like, hey, I took away blah, 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 or this or that. And if it didn't match, then we either have to do a redo, we have to do an additional something. I mean, did it accomplish what it was meant to do? From that, how you're measuring it. What is the ROI? Because again, it costs time. So every workshop that a leader does, there has to be a formal metric that you're measuring, not only from the initial one that day, but also 30 days later or 60 days later, or what are you doing with that knowledge? But it can't just be that in itself. I think that happens with leaders when it's a very short-term goal and it's not being measured against the strategic plan that that organization has. So it has to serve.
And then how do you coach teams to keep values front and center when they're under pressure from deadlines, budgets, or other crises?
Oh, well, that's the problem, right? As some people want to do the shortcuts and things. Again, when in the middle of crisis, this is not the time to show you like, hey, you should have done this in the values. Again, this goes back to the leader every single day. Remember, culture eats strategy for breakfast every single day. It's a daily thing. As a leader, you're either adding to or taking away from the culture. It's not like well, today I didn't focus on culture. It'll be okay. No, you did something with culture. It doesn't matter. So when it comes times for crises, when the deadlines are coming, all of this stuff, how are they going to respond? Absolutely, the people are going to respond according to whatever the culture is. If the culture is a blaming culture, they're going to start blaming. If the culture is to start complaining, they're going to start complaining. If that's what the culture is, if that's what the culture sustains, that's what is going to happen. So don't take that as a who do I need to catch and all this stuff. Take it as an opportunity to really understand what is going on. Be thankful for those crises. Those are opportunities. As a leader, those are one of the greatest gifts. If there was no conflict, they wouldn't need you. Mm. Leaders are there because we have conflict. Leaders are there because when those things happen, then I know now what I need to focus. Now I know what my next workshop needs to be on. Now I know what my next recommendation at the board meeting needs to be.
Right.
Now I know what my next one-on-one needs to look like. Before I didn't have direction unless this crisis came. But values, the only thing you can do that, again, reminding people these are the values of the company. But again, we don't just like to hear, we like to see. The best way that as a leader you can bring, again, awareness to those values is because you live out those values yourself daily, because that's what they're going to see.
For any organization feeling burnt out or disconnected, what's one simple practice they can start this week to realign with their core values?
Well, one, read them.
What do they say?
Because it's funny, but I'm telling you, I have rarely gone into a workplace where I can ask any employee. That's part of the Baldrige too, where you can ask any employee, what are our core values of the organization? If 1 out of 10 is too much, and I'm talking also about leaders. So it's not like it's not a like, hey, how bad are you? All this stuff. The reason why we don't have that alignment is because every day we're not using that as the way that we filter to make decisions with. How do I treat my customers? Do I treat them with those values? Are those values in the front doing it? When I do my reports, are those values the ones that are in it? It has to be in every integrated and infiltrated in every part. I mean, think about it in simple ways. Our values are how we do things. So in a culture, in an organization, you don't make any decision outside of those values. They're part of your DNA. It's just how they are. If you don't like them, there's something else going on. Think about the character of a person. There's not a single decision that you make outside of you. Mm-hmm. There's not. The same thing in a company, in an organization, their culture. There's not a single decision that you make in a company that's outside of the culture. So you look You remember we talk about, like actions speak louder than words. You will know them by their fruit. You will know them by it's like, tell me what you are. So when we're talking about quick alignment, first of all, and that happens to us all, right? I mean, that's when we talk about identity crisis. We encounter that as people, like trying to get back in touch with who you are. So as a person, that happens. We're disconnected many times. Like, even me as a mom having a podcast, I don't even like old time you're serving for 20 years, you forget, what do I like? What do I think is for fun? Do I want to watch Cocomelon Friday nights or would I pick something? You know, is that my choice? Has it been a choice made for me? You know what
That's
I mean?
hilarious.
And then it happens. So think about it. That happens on us, like as a person. The same thing happens in an organization. We tend to forget.
Mm.
We just tend to forget, not because we're bad or we chose to move away from real stuff. It happened. And unless it's consistent alignment and consistently feeding, I mean, that's what we tell ourselves, right? We got to take a time to pause. So pausing in a business is a very good thing. In times of that, when I need to realign, guess what? I need to pause. I need to break. I need to take a breather. And we say that with people. Well, same thing as an organization, taking a breather, letting our people rest. When we rest, we can come back. We can fight any battle we need to. We need to make decisions. We need to do hard things, but we need to have that time of break, that time of rest, and get back in touch with why we started our company. Why did we hire those people that are with us right now? Why are they still here? Because in those times for alignment, when that disconnection comes in, we got to be reminded, who am I? And just think about in us regularly. We need to be reminded when you're talking about an organization, a group of people, you're not just reminding one person, you're reminding a whole lot of people with a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different places they come from. So you have to take a time to that pause and really remind yourself who you are and remind people even who are you here. And we can move from there.
So I always like to end with my signature resolution question.
Uh-huh.
So in your own life, what's one conflict that taught you the most about who you are and how you want to lead?
My conflict, actually, I would say was a serious conflict, but not embracing who I was fully. Really thinking that in order to be the best professional, I needed to leave something at the door, the other part of me. That could have been even my heritage, my cultural background, even my own femininity. Thinking that in order to be successful, I had to temper those things so that I can be then open to everyone and be not necessarily likable, but so that I can be open minded. And realizing that in doing that, the conflict is when those hard times came, my foundation was weak because I had been starving all of myself. I had not fully embraced myself. So I was starving a big part of who I was, who I am. And when I started feeding all of me again, even those hard times, the hard decisions and embracing it, it was not something that would seem I'm not as open, but on the contrary, the more I embraced me, the more I was able to embrace others. So that was a part for me.
I love that. Well, Hannah, it was such a pleasure talking to you today. Before I let you go, can you let everyone know where to follow you and your work?
Sure, absolutely. You can follow me at heartnomics.com, and that is HEARTnomics.com. And you'll be able to find in there how we can work together. I also have a new book called Hustle with Heart, and that is for internal alignment. But I was talking exactly so there has a way to grow in heart, and also the methodology that I use to help leaders to make that quick breathe in alignment in those moments, especially those moments of crisis. So check that one out. It's on Amazon, Hustle with Heart.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What Hannah reminds us is that transformation doesn't happen when we master new tools. It happens when we reconnect to what matters most. Metrics might measure success, but values define it. And in a world that rewards speed, choosing alignment becomes the real act of leadership. When we lead from the heart, when we let compassion guide performance and values shape every decision, we don't just manage change, we become the change. Because resolution isn't just about solving problems. It's about leading from a place of integrity, humanity, and heart. Thank you for joining me in the Resolution Room. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, please consider sharing it with someone else who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. It really helps more people find these conversations. You can explore our wearable wisdom collection at the Mind Shop or visit loweinsights.com to learn more about our work and upcoming projects. All of the details are in the show notes below. And until next time, keep building in the quiet because that's what will carry you forward.